Buckle up, buttercups. We're getting into it today. I'm going to be talking about Seint makeup. I feel like since I started YouTube, I have had over 100 people easily reach out to me asking me what I think about Seint makeup, what I would recommend from Seint makeup, have I tried Seint makeup? And I have a long time ago when it was mascara, because it did launch in 2013 as mascara, and I did not like it. I remember I bought one eyeshadow and I liked the eyeshadow, but I did not like the actual cream products. I didn't think much about it after that, and that's kind of how I responded to everybody that reached out to me. And then in 2020, they changed over to Seint makeup. And I believe it was then that they turned into a multi-level marketing company. Now, I am going to preface this by saying, I am not here to argue that point. There are a lot of things I do not agree with Seint makeup specifically, but I have not been asked about their business practices. I have been asked about their makeup. So I'm gonna let y'all do what you will with that other aspect. I am here to talk about the quality of the makeup itself. I might touch on a couple of things that bother me in the other aspect as I go along, but the majority of this is a review of the products. Now, even though it is a multi-level marketing company, you are able to go to the website and purchase straight from the website. You do not have to go through an artist. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and say, one of those things that irritates me so badly is the fact that they're called makeup artists just for signing up to sell some makeup. As someone who went to school and has worked in the actual industry of makeup artistry for 9 years, which means I get paid to actually perform a service. I don't get just paid to sell a product. To so flippantly call yourself a makeup artist rubs me a little the wrong way. But again, that's just my personal opinion. So what I did, because I had so many people asking about it, and because I honestly can't even go to my explore page on Instagram without being inundated with tutorials using Seint makeup, I purchased a full face, and we're gonna talk about the products. I spent $241.49 on everything that you see in this palette. I did not pay for the palette. Apparently I hit some kind of threshold where I didn't have to, but I do have all of the face products that I'm gonna need and a few shadows and setting powder. Now, if you are not familiar with Seint makeup, it is cream products for the face. Now, they have cream eyeshadows, but they also have powder eyeshadows. But their main focus is cream makeup. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and say that, yes, the makeup artist annoys me. My biggest pet peeve, like it gets under my skin so badly, is when I see pretty much everybody that I have seen on social media selling this makeup say, over 40, this is why you shouldn't use liquid or powder foundations. No, no, and no. I have said for years and will continue to say, there is absolutely no age limit to any kind of makeup, period. If you like it and it works for you, then use it. But to make people feel like if they're over 40 and use a powder foundation or a liquid foundation and love it, to make them feel like they're doing something wrong and that in order to do something right, they have to buy what you're selling, really bothers me, okay? I love powder foundation, I love liquid foundation, and I have a few creams that I love. I am 42, so I fall in that over 40 crowd. I don't like people telling me that I'm doing something wrong. Can you tell? So that is my biggest pet peeve. If you like what you like and it works for you, don't listen to someone telling you you can't use a certain product. Let's get into the makeup, shall we? The first thing I'm gonna do on the face is color correct. Now they do have, I think fairly new, within maybe the last year, what they call Demi products. And these smaller pans right here are their Demi products. It is a line of correctors. They are $20 each, and they have 43 shades, which is quite a bit. You can use them for, obviously, color correcting. I've seen people use the dark colors for eyeliner, cream shadow, blush, lots and lots and lots of ways you can use them, but they do come in very small pans. Whenever you do purchase them, they come in this little metal sleeve, just like that, and then you just slide it out. This is in the shade 03. Now, what they say is that this should be applied very sparingly with a brush. I get absolutely no coverage with this with a brush. That's just me. I've seen other people use a brush and it's great. I don't. So I have to use my finger. Now, as far as ingredients, we're going to talk about those as I apply these products. This is a cruelty-free, gluten-free, and paraben-free company. However, they are not vegan because there is some beeswax in a couple of their products. This specific Demi corrector has lots and lots of ingredients, and some of them may contain bismuth oxychloride, which is not something that's bad for you, but it is something that I feel like a lot of people have some reactions to in the form of itching or redness. It is the one thing in the Bare Minerals loose foundation that some people cannot tolerate, and it is in some of these Demi correctors. There is also carmine in some of them, which is also an ingredient that can irritate a lot of people, especially if it's used around the eyes. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. It doesn't warm up as easily on my finger as some of the other cream products do. And I just feel like it's not doing the most. It's on my finger. I'm not getting any product on there. And no, it does not work any better with a brush for me. This is 2 grams of product. And they are $20 each. And it's just not doing it for me. I've seen a couple of people use these and say, they'll last you a year. They may be tiny, but you need such a small amount. I'm like, I've gone back into this span 6 times. I don't know what you're talking about, but my under eyes need way more than a tiny amount. I will say though, it does wear well throughout the day. I don't have any issues with it creasing or caking. I do, however, apply concealer on top and set it with a powder. Now, to put it in a little bit of perspective, I pulled out another cream corrector that I have in my collection, which is the Charlotte Tilbury. And this only has 2.5 grams. So it's 0.5 grams more, but it's also more than 20 bucks. So just keep that in mind. It does look tiny, but I just think it's the packaging that it comes in. It makes it look even smaller than the 2 grams that it is. Let's go on to this foundation. First, I want to show you this palette. So I have I'm backwards, the foundation. I got a bronzer, a blush, and a highlight. They have smaller palettes where you can put all 4 of them and they touch each other. I would absolutely not like that because, as you can see, no matter what brush I use in the foundation and the bronzer, that stuff gets everywhere. They're very thin palettes. So if I had them touching each other and used even a small brush, there's no way they would not end up mixing. Now, I do have some dual-ended brushes from when they were mascara, and I tried them years ago. I do think these are pretty much the same as what they have now. They look different, but the shapes are pretty much the same. I don't think you need these, okay? This is basically a little kabuki brush, and then this is a pointed brush to use like under your eyes and if you want more detail application. I also don't love dual-ended brushes as a rule because they are harder to store. I have actually been using the BK Beauty. This is the Travel, but it's the 101 brush, and I like that. Now, I got the shade Amber in the foundation. I did not ask an artist to color match me. I figured it out on my own. I just didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. This comes in 18 shades and it retails for $16. Now there is 4 grams in this product. I have heard so many people say it's so cost effective. It's so good. I agree. $16 is not that much money. And I, tried to find some creams that were favorites of mine. And the one that's the absolute favorite of mine is the Lancome Tant Idole Stick Foundation, which comes in obviously a cream form. This is 9.5 grams. It retails for $46, which ends up being about 85 cents more per gram than this is. Not that much of a difference, but on the front end, you are only paying $16 for this. You do have to have some kind of palette to put it in though. Now, some of the ingredients, I'm gonna go ahead and apply it as I'm talking, and I'm gonna be stippling this into the skin. Some of these ingredients are a little controversial for some people. It has petrolatum, it has paraffin wax or liquid paraffin. It does have beeswax, which is what causes this company not to be vegan. It has another kind of wax, ozacarite wax. I'm not pronouncing that right, I'm sure. And it has lanolin, and then it's got like your iron oxides and titanium dioxide. So not a huge extensive list of ingredients, but some that could be problematic for certain people. So I've gone back into the product about 4 times now to pick up more foundation. And again, just stippling it in, which y'all know is my favorite way to apply any foundation, but especially one that is a cream. And I am not going extra heavy. I think that is the main thing you have to remember with this and any cream, honestly, is to start out super light and then add where you need more coverage. Because while some people, specifically ones that work for Seint, say that no better formula is out there for people over 40, it can get cakey fast. Faster than any powder or liquid I have. So it's just something to be aware of as you are applying. So this color works out for me. I do like the coverage. On me, it is not near as full as some of the videos that I have seen. It is more of a medium coverage. You can build it up to fuller, but again, that requires more product, and I just don't want that kind of product or that amount of product on my face. So I'm good with this coverage, and you can see it's a pretty natural finish. It's not super shiny or luminous, but it's also not flat matte. I honestly got a smaller 01 in the Demi to use as concealer, but I have not done that yet, and I really don't want to because of the lack of pigment I get from the 03 as a corrector. I just don't want that much under my eye. Now, they call the foundation a highlight because you are meant to get more than one color. One for your face and one for underneath and in the middle of your face. I don't think that I would like this formula underneath my eyes. I feel like it would be a little heavy. I'm not the biggest fan of cream concealers anyways, so I'm going to use a totally different concealer and then we'll be back to finish up the face. I use my Chantecaille Future Skin Gel Foundation as my concealer, which I do almost every day. And I will say, if it mixes with the foundation, there are no issues between the cream and the gel formulas. But I think you'll be able to tell, I know I can, that my under eyes are not near as covered as they typically are when I use some of my other favorite correctors. And I just think that that speaks to the coverage of the Demi. Now, if you sell Seint, please don't come at me and tell me, no, you got to use it like this. I'm using it how I feel comfortable using it, and it's just not working out like some of my other favorite correctors. Let's talk about the bronzer. I see everybody using this big, huge, fluffy brush for their bronzer. There is no way that this brush will fit in this pan and not transfer product to something right next to it. I have tried it with this brush, and I'll show you what it looks like. I did not get a contour, by the way. Now, they're all about the sculpting and the contouring and the dots everywhere and blending it all in together and super fast, streamlined makeup. That's the whole thing of Seint, from what I gather. I don't contour. I have pretty defined cheekbones. Personally, at least they're defined enough for my taste, and I prefer to bronze. This is also $16. Pretty much everything in these long pans is going to be $16. And it comes in 4 shades. I'm in the shade Bella. So when you put it, I mean, I got quite a bit on this brush. And then apply it. It's very, very, very faint. Like, can you even see it? I can't. So I have been using still something fluffy. This is an old like Morphe E4 brush, okay? But it's smaller, so it's gonna be able to get in here better. It's still fluffy, but it's not as fluffy. It's kind of medium density. And I stipple it in that way, and I find I get a little bit more payoff. I think this is a very pretty bronzer color. But what I will say is that I do think that it tends to disappear after I apply some other products on my face. So every time that I have worn this makeup, or this bronzer specifically, except for the first time, I have felt like I need to personally go back over it with a powder bronzer. And we'll see if that's the case today. Because, I mean, the pigment is showing up. It's a pretty color. We're gonna put some blush on. This is the lip and cheek shade. So you can use it, wow, on your lips or your cheeks. Isn't that crazy? It's also $16, but it does come in more colors. See, I wrote on my notes here. It's in 33 shades, and they have gloss, satin, semi-gloss finishes. So you can choose from whatever finish you want. I am in the shade Hollywood, and I can't remember which finish that is. Maybe satin. I'll put it on the screen. It doesn't say on here. This is 4 grams as well. And this one does have some oils in it. And I feel like it was the only one that I saw quite a bit of oils listed in the ingredient deck. So this Hollywood has a little bit of a pink and gold shift to it. I've heard people say it is comparable to the famous NARS Orgasm Blush. So we shall see. I have definitely used it. I am really put my brush in here. This is the Royal Nickel BOM 185 brush, my favorite for cream blush. And I'm getting a little bit of product on there. A little bit. I do feel like out of all the creams, the blush is the one that's the hardest, other than the Demi. Out of the bronzer, highlight, and foundation, I feel like the blush is the harder to get out of the pan. It needs to definitely be warmed up, which is kind of funny considering it has oils in the ingredient deck, but it's definitely been my experience. I'm just going to stipple that on. It is a pretty pink shade. Again, with a little bit of a gold shift to it. I have seen many, many people that don't set this makeup. And they say to take a damp beauty blender, so this is a damp beauty sponge, to go over all of your creams after you've applied them and really just kind of stamp it into the skin to pick up any excess product and kind of blend everything together. So that's what I'm going to do. And then they say to use a setting spray. Now, Seint does sell one. I did not buy it, so I'm just going to use my Charlotte Tilbury. Set the face, and then go in again with the sponge to kind of press that setting spray in. Okay? So that's done. I feel like a little bit of the bronzer went away doing that step. They do sell a setting powder. It only comes in 1 shade, and it is actually the same size as the cream products, 4 grams, but it is $2 more. And again, only comes in 1 shade. This is my least favorite product in the line that I got. It just doesn't, in my opinion and on my face, do the job of setting the makeup down. I'm just using a Sigma Soft Blend. This is their new winter collection. It's so pretty. And I'm just gonna kind of press this powder into where I want it to be set the most. The problem is not seen initially for me in this powder. In fact, when I first use it, I'm like, oh, this is actually gonna set pretty nicely. It's the fact that the setting properties don't last for me more than like an hour. Like I get really pretty shiny after that. And I have used this with lots of other powders, and I much prefer my Airpress powder and really most of the other powders that I've used to this one. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to tell, but I feel like the bronzer is just not doing the bronzing job anymore. I always feel like I have to go back in with the powder bronzer on top of this because I just feel a little washed out. So that's what I'm going to do, but I do want you to see what it looks like with all the products except the Illuminator. I do that last. And I'm going to go in with a bronzer that I cannot put down lately, the Sigma Matte Bronzer in medium, and just touch it up just a little bit. That was a lot, but that's okay. This is very blendable. And I know some people are going to say, no, that you didn't need extra bronzer. I like bronzer. So I just felt like the tone of that one, while it was really pretty when you first applied it, just kind of went away. Let's talk about the Illuminator. This is by far my favorite of the cream products. I don't think it stands out as the best illuminator I have ever used in my life. It's not, but it is very, very pretty. And I have found myself reaching for this separately when I have a full face of many other brands and nothing else on my face but Seint. I have found myself reaching for this anyways as my illuminator for that day. And that tells me that it's my favorite of all of the products. Again, 4 grams, $16, and it comes in 6 shades. I am in the shade, or I chose the shade, Rose Gold. So just like with any other cream highlights, I just like to put it on my ring finger and middle finger and then just tap it lightly right here on the upper cheekbone. I stop kind of halfway down my eye, and I just think it is a very pretty, subtle cream highlight. So let's talk about eyeshadows, because again, I remember my favorite thing from the mascara line being the eyeshadow. I only got 1 eyeshadow, from them long time ago. And this time I got 7. So if you see right here, these are all of the colors that I chose. I will swatch them and put in a separate screen. And going from left to right, I have Peppa, Riviera, Chai, Sedona, Bubba, Gilded, and Mama. So I tried to pick out a combination of mattes and shimmers, but also a combination of cool tones and warm tones. Now these are $14 a piece. They are 2.5 grams of product. And from what I have found in my research, they really like to push the fact that they're 2.5 grams of product. Like they're very proud about how much product are in their eyeshadows. It's not a bad amount at all. For reference, a MAC single pan eyeshadow is 1.5 grams. So you are getting more than, say, a MAC shadow or most standard round shadows. However, if you look at something like the Natasha Denona Bubba palette, which is one of my favorite palettes of all times, each of these shades are 2.5 grams. If I were to make my own 12 pan palette of these 2.5 gram Seint shadows, I would be spending $192, not including the palette, whereas I can get this for $129. So there is quite a bit of a price discrepancy when you're looking at multiple shadows. I do not think it's the best deal that you can find. I think they're a good formula. I still stand by that. I mean, I have had no issues with them, but I don't think that they are the end all be all of shadows, especially when it comes to price. So I'm gonna start out with Chai, which is the lightest matte shade. It was hard for me to tell, even with swatches, because of the lighting that people use, exactly what these were gonna come out to be. But I'm pretty happy with what I chose. And I'm just gonna use a Rephr 16 brush and put this all over my crease. Now, yes, I'm aware that when you run out of a shadow in the Natasha Denona palette, you cannot buy singles to replace it. That is the main difference between single shadows like this and a palette like the Natasha Denona. So I'm gonna go into Bubba, which I have found to seemingly be the most popular shade. And it is a little warmer than Chai. And go in with a 15 kind of over that and see if it'll warm it up a little bit, just a little bit. And then I'm gonna go into Riviera, which is the very pretty gold metallic shade. I did not get any of the cream shadows. I would probably recommend putting some kind of cream underneath. And I'm just using my finger for this. I'm gonna press that onto the lid. And I'm not getting quite the payoff that seems to be what you would get when you swatch it with your finger. I'm gonna go into a brush, the Rephr number 2. I will say I've already created a little bit of a hard pan on this product. I'm someone who really does like to use my finger with eyeshadows. The fact that it's creating a hard pan isn't the best. And I started out with just the brush on this side so you can see if it makes that big of a difference. It's kind of the same payoff both ways. It is pretty, but I do prefer to put this on top of a cream because I feel like it just makes it pop a little bit more. Then I'm gonna take Sedona, which is not as dark as I was hoping it would be, but it is dark enough for the outer corner just to deepen it up a little bit. And then I'm going to use that same Sedona as an eyeliner. It's going to be much more understated than other eyeliners that I use because it's just not as dark, but it'll give a very soft definition to that eyeline. There's quite a bit of kick up in the mattes. If you can see that Sedona right there. It's not something that bothers me. I don't judge an eyeshadow based on that because I always tap my brush off anyways. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of Bubba, put it underneath the lash line. And then I'm gonna do mascara and lips off camera because I don't have anything Seint related in that aspect. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about final thoughts on this full face of Seint. All right, here we go. The final face of Seint makeup. I'm gonna get a little bit closer so that you can actually see. I love that Illuminator so much. See how I'm already a little shiny right here, even after using that powder? So I feel like y'all probably could determine my final thoughts as I was going through this video, but there are some good things and some not so good things for me personally within this line. My two favorite products for the face are the foundation, or the highlight as they call it, and the actual highlight or the illuminator. With the illuminator being number one by far. The foundation actually surprised me. It's much better than it was way back when I tried it. I don't know if my preferences have changed or if the formula has changed. I have had no adverse side effects. It is super, super duper long wearing, especially if I set it. I do prefer to set it. I just, for me, do not like how much of anything looks on my face without setting it with a powder. And my biggest dislike from the range is definitely the powder, because I just don't think it does what I want it to, with a close second being the bronzer. Not because it's not pretty, but because it just does not perform like I want it to. The pigment is there upon the first application, but if you wear it for more than a couple hours or put anything else on your face, it kind of disappears. The eyeshadows are pretty, but when I put the price of them in comparison to the price of some of my other favorites, like the Bubba palette, or some of my very favorite eyeshadow formulas this year that I have discovered are the Sigma eyeshadow palettes, way less expensive than $14 a pop for 2.5 grams. So I do like that if you find one shade that you absolutely love, you can buy it individually. But as a whole, I would not recommend for your complete collection of eyeshadows to be just Seint. I just don't think that's very cost effective. The Demi corrector, not my jam. Don't hate it, but it just doesn't give me enough coverage. If it wore really awful throughout the day, then I would say yes, absolutely not. But it didn't wear awful. It actually wore pretty well every time that I have tried it. So if you're someone who just needs a tiny, tiny bit of correction, or you want to talk to someone else who has a better way to apply it than a brush or your fingers to get a better outcome, by all means. I just think that for $20 a pop, it's just a little more than I want to spend when I have correctors that I'm head over heels in love with and give me the results I want every single time. So while I don't think this is like an awful brand as far as the products go, I can't say that it is the best either. I mean, it's hit or miss. There is not a brand out there where I love every single product they make. So that's pretty par for the course for me when I'm reviewing a brand as a whole. And finally, I feel like the only other question I'm going to get is, who is the foundation best for? I've had some really, really dry days where I have used this and it's been fine. And I've had some not so dry days and it's been fine. You know, creams as a whole, I don't really recommend for super, super oily people, but if you want to try it, that's great, because again, it does last a very long time on the skin and it does not wear down throughout the day. And I don't think it really necessarily matters how old you are either. You could be 18 and wear this, and you can be 65 and wear a powder or a liquid. I'm still stuck on that. That's bothers me so much. Hopefully that was comprehensive enough. I feel like I talked a lot, but if you have any additional questions, let me know. Down in the comment section, I will have everything, all the colors that I use and everything listed in the description box per usual. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure and like and subscribe before you leave so you don't miss out on any future videos. And I hope you all go out and have a very blessed day.